This is my third video in a series discussing why America's drug approach is so ineffective in mental health care, as well as an approach that restores a person's mental health. Turning our loved ones into lifelong customers of psychiatric goods and services is, in my opinion, archaic and unbelievably inhumane. This video describes how Dr. Carl Pfeiffer used orthomolecular treatment to cure his psychiatric patients. As always, you need to know that I'm not a doctor. I'm a former teacher and now an investigative reporter. In this series of videos, I'm reporting on over 20 years of my research into natural treatments to both recover from and prevent a mental illness. It's important to understand that the orthomolecular approach is integrative, which means it does not deny synthetic drugs to people who are psychotic and who need help very quickly. Orthomolecular doctors do prescribe these drugs if someone needs immediate help. The difference is that the person isn't left on these drugs for life. Instead, once the person is stabilized, orthomolecular doctors then go to work to determine the proven biological cause of the illness and correct it. It's like getting a lab test to find out if you're anemic and then taking iron to correct your biochemistry. Some of the nutrients in our body are extremely important for healthy mental function. Orthomolecular scientists and doctors know the symptoms of these various physical problems that lead to the brain not working properly. As treatment normalizes the person's biochemistry, the psychiatric symptoms fade, and doctors very slowly and carefully wean the patient off the synthetics. In my research into finding a type of treatment that would help my own family, I learned from the Orthomolecular Society in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, that French scientists made an amazing discovery in the late 1930s. They found that there's a direct correlation between a person's natural level of histamines and mental illness. American drug makers quickly seized upon this histamine research and by the mid-1940s had developed synthetic drugs to artificially manipulate a person's histamine level, but only as long as the person takes the drug. If he quits taking it, the histamine imbalance returns. Psychiatrists have been prescribing these drugs for about 70 years now, masking symptoms but never curing anyone. When one patent expires, another drug is produced to do the same thing: artificially manipulate a person's histamine level until he or she dies. Dr. Carl Pfeiffer was one of the two founders of orthomolecular medicine, along with Dr. Abram Hoffer. Beginning in the 1930s, Dr. Pfeiffer studied more than 20,000 schizophrenic patients and authored over 300 research articles on the biochemistry of mental illness, as well as about 4 books, including Mental and Elemental Nutrients, The Schizophrenias, Ours to Conquer, Nutrition and Mental Illness, and Dr. Pfeiffer's Total Nutrition. In Mental and Elemental Nutrients, you can see on this pie chart from page 400 that Dr. Pfeiffer divided schizophrenia into 3 biochemical groups: histodelia, histopenia, and pyroluria. On the right is the word histopenia. This is the condition of having a histamine level that is both too low along with a copper level that is too high. According to Dr. Pfeiffer, both conditions must be present for the person to become mentally ill. A person with histopenia is called histopenic. This group makes up about 50% of all cases of schizophrenia. Histodelia is the term for people who have a histamine level that is too high. This person is called histodelic. Dr. Pfeiffer proved that histodelia is the cause of about 20% of cases of schizophrenia. Every human being has a histamine level, and it needs to be in the right range. These 3 causes of mental illnesses, histodelia, histopenia, and pyroluria, cause symptoms on a continuum, and they only result in schizophrenia in a worst-case scenario. My family member tends to have elevated histamines. His level became so high that he went from having annoying physical allergies to depression and eventually to what doctors called bipolar with psychosis, exactly the progression Dr. Pfeiffer described. He was never diagnosed with schizophrenia, and yet his mental health was restored when orthomolecular treatment corrected his histamine level. All of the biological conditions I talk about are on a continuum, so they can be mild or moderate or severe. You can also see where Dr. Pfeiffer estimated that about 30% of all cases of schizophrenia are caused by pyroluria, a topic I discussed in my previous video. Dr. Pfeiffer spent his career curing his patients' mental illnesses by rebalancing their biochemistry, in most cases by either normalizing their histamine level or correcting their adrenal metabolism. Here's the pie chart from page 401. At the top, you can see that a wheat allergy is so common that it's responsible for an estimated 10% of cases of schizophrenia. I personally have 2 friends whose loved ones have serious psychiatric reactions if they eat wheat. For some people, wheat is simply dangerous. Dr. Pfeiffer estimated he cured some 10,000 psychiatric patients with the orthomolecular approach. I'm not trying to say it was a one-time treatment and then all patients were cured forever. Typically, patients with these physical problems, whether it's their histamine level or malfunctioning adrenal glands or illness triggering allergies or other condition, have to use nutritional supplements for a long time. I can't say how long because it's different for every person. With the help of our family doctor and this little, maybe a quarter of an inch thick book, I was able to wean my family member off of not 1, not 2, but 3 antipsychotic drugs the psychiatrist had him take. Dr. Pfeiffer's law states, for every drug that benefits a patient, there is a natural substance that can achieve the same effect. All the psychiatrists and psychologists we consulted expected my loved one to need psych drugs until he died. Reacting to numerous allergies, unable to hold down a job, or lead a good life. I couldn't handle such a heartbreak, so I found a better way. And now my loved one leads a normal life with normal mental health. He has returned to college, works part-time, and pays taxes. So, incurably mentally ill? Baloney. I just have to say again how completely disgusted I am with conventional American psychiatry and how much I love the orthomolecular approach. When was the last time your loved one's psychiatrist examined his or her histamine level? I would guess never, because again, conventional psychiatry doesn't work that way. Psychiatrists only do what they're told. So they just prescribe patented synthetic drugs in an effort to suppress their patients' symptoms. And that's it. No attempt to recognize that mental illnesses have proven physical causes. No attempt to find out which one the patient is suffering from. So of course, there's no attempt to correct the real problem. Orthomolecular doctors do know the causes and cures for almost all mental illnesses, although I realize it may be difficult for many people to find an orthomolecular doctor. And beware, I did find one in my city, but he was a fraud. He had taken one 2-day class with Dr. Hoffer and then advertised himself as an orthomolecular psychiatrist, but he was clueless. So just be careful out there. So, to wrap up this video, I hope I've convinced you that there are scientists who know that most mental disorders have a physical cause, and they also know how to detect them and correct them to restore a person's mental health. The United States is in the midst of a serious epidemic of mental illness. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, 1 out of every 4 Americans has some degree of mental illness, ranging from depression to anxiety, ADHD, schizophrenia, and more. I lay the blame on the drug approach because it was never designed to cure anyone. It just turns each and every patient into a lifelong customer of psychiatric goods and services. Our current system brings in so much money to those at its helm that there's no financial incentive to cure anyone. And in my view, they don't even have a moral incentive to cure people. I think that isn't just wrong. It isn't just un-American. It's pure evil. I'm convinced our federal government plays a huge role in America's mental health crisis, too. Is it a conspiracy? Is it greed? Is it just plain stupidity? Or is it something else? That's the subject of my next video. It took me a long time to read enough books on orthomolecular treatment to really understand it. So I took what I learned and wrote my own book, The Secrets to Real Mental Health. It's the book I wish had been available when I needed help with my loved ones. I hope you'll read it. The second half is what I consider the layperson's guide to using orthomolecular treatment. There should be a link below to buy a copy, or you can always order one from Amazon.com. If you found this video helpful, please click like and subscribe to my channel.